Have you ever felt like someone was playing mind games with you? Like every word, every gesture was a small trap designed to make you react exactly the way they wanted? You're not imagining things. Today, I'm going to reveal something that will forever change the way you interact with others. How to identify when someone is testing you, and more importantly, how to avoid falling into their game. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you impulsively responded to a comment and later regretted it? How many times have you felt like you lost control of a situation simply because you didn't see the test coming? This ends today. As Neil Strauss discovered after years of studying social psychology and power dynamics, every interaction is a test, and every test you pass brings you closer to control. When you understand this, you start to see the world differently. Tests are everywhere, and those who can identify them have an incomparable advantage. Do you know what people do first to test you? They try to provoke an emotional reaction. It might be with an uncomfortable question, a challenging look, or even a prolonged silence. They do it because they know that whoever reacts loses, and most people always react. But you won't be like most people after today, because the first step to becoming unreachable, to becoming someone who doesn't fall for these tests, is simple. Stop reacting automatically. Every time you impulsively react to a provocation, you're giving away your power. It's like handing someone the keys to your emotional state and saying, "Here, control how I feel today." People who master the art of seduction and persuasion know this, which is why they're constantly throwing small tests to see who gives away this power and who doesn't. Neil Strauss explains it perfectly. The most powerful person in any interaction is the one who needs less from the other. When you react, you demonstrate that you need. You need to defend yourself. You need to be understood. You need to be right. And that need makes you vulnerable. Think about the last time someone said something like, "Wow, you look tired today," or "That outfit is interesting." Did you jump to explain yourself? Did you feel obligated to justify your appearance? That was the test, and if you reacted, you failed it. And what happens when you stop reacting? When someone tries to provoke you and you simply look at them calmly, when they try to knock you off center and your face doesn't change one bit, when chaos happens around you and you maintain your peace, that's when you become unreachable. That's when you pass the test. Here's a practical exercise. For the next 3 days, every time you feel the urge to react defensively to something, take a 5-second pause. Breathe. Observe the sensation in your body. Ask yourself, does this really deserve my energy? Then consciously decide how to respond, or if it's worth responding at all. Repeat this phrase every morning. Today I observe before I react. My power is in my calmness. You'll see how after a few days, people start treating you differently. Some will be confused because they won't get the reaction they expected. Others will be frustrated, and the most perceptive will begin to respect you more. Remember to follow me for more content like this that will transform how you relate to others. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any videos. And this skill of not reacting is just the beginning, because there's a second level of tests that's more subtle, more penetrating, and that's where most people fall without realizing it. And that's what we'll talk about in the next point. The second type of test that people use to see if they can control you is precisely testing your attachment. Have you noticed how some people appear and disappear from your life without explanation, or how they suddenly become distant just when you start feeling more connected? It's not a coincidence. It's a calculated test. Neil Strauss describes it as the push-pull game. They pull you closer to see if you cling, and they push you away to see if you get desperate. It's a tactic as old as it is effective because it directly attacks one of our greatest vulnerabilities, the fear of abandonment. The truth is that excessive attachment is the greatest weakness you can show in any social or romantic dynamic. Everything you find hard to let go of, everything you desperately cling to, is exactly what makes you manipulable. People who have mastered the art of passing these tests have understood a fundamental truth. The one who is willing to lose everything is the one who really gains everything. Have you ever wondered why sometimes the more interest you show in someone, the less interest that person seems to show in you? It's because by showing too much attachment, you're failing the test. You're demonstrating that you value the connection with that person more than your own autonomy, and that instantly diminishes your perceived value. What you chase runs from you, Neil used to say. And he was right. Every time you cling to someone who's trying to create distance, you're sending a clear message: I need you more than you need me. And in that moment, the balance of power completely shifts. Think about your current relationships. Is there one where you feel it's always you making the effort? Where you fear that if you stop trying, everything would fall apart? That relationship is unbalanced, and you're probably constantly failing tests without knowing it. And what happens when you learn to let go? When you're no longer afraid to lose, when you understand that nothing you have to beg to stay is really worth it, you become untouchable. The dynamics change. Ironically, it's when you demonstrate that you can walk away without problems that people begin to do the impossible to keep you close. Here's a transformative exercise. Identify something or someone you're attached to right now. It could be a relationship, an idea about yourself, or even a specific outcome you believe you need to be happy. Now imagine what your life would be like if you completely let it go. Visualize the freedom, the lightness of not having to control that situation. Do you feel anxiety or peace? If you feel peace, you already have your answer. During the next week, when you feel someone is pulling away or testing your attachment, do exactly the opposite of what you would normally do. Instead of chasing, take a step back. Instead of seeking explanations, give space. And repeat to yourself, what is meant for me will flow to me without effort. I don't chase, I attract. You'll see something surprising. When you stop clinging, when you pass this attachment test, the universe often surprises you by bringing you something better, or returning that person to your life, but now on your terms. If this content is helping you, make sure to give it a like and share it with someone you think could benefit from it. And get ready, because the next level of tests is where the masters truly separate from the apprentices. The third type of test, and perhaps the most powerful, is the test of silence and information. In a world where everyone wants to be constantly seen, heard, and validated, the person who knows how to stay quiet and maintain their mystery has an incomparable advantage. People will constantly test you to see how much you'll reveal, how much you'll explain, how much you'll try to fill the empty spaces. Neil Strauss discovered this principle when he observed the world's greatest seducers. Silence is a screen where others project their desires and insecurities. When you remain silent, when you don't reveal all your cards, people project onto you exactly what they want to see, and that power is immense. But most people have no control over their mouth. They talk too much, over-explain, constantly try to justify themselves, and every unnecessary word they utter is a small loss of power, a piece of information that others can use against them. Have you ever found yourself sharing too much with someone you just met, revealing your insecurities, your fears, your future plans too soon? That's exactly the trap that those who fail the silence test fall into. When you're too accessible, when you tell everything about yourself instantly, you become predictable, and the predictable is rarely interesting. There's no mystery, no depth, nothing that makes others want to discover more. They've read you completely from the first chapter, so why would they keep reading? And in what areas of your life does this affect you? In all of them. In personal relationships, if you're always available and immediately share everything you think, you become a safe but uninteresting option. People take you for granted. At work, if you reveal all your plans and strategies, others can get ahead or take advantage of your information. In social life, if you always need to explain and justify every decision you make, others feel they have the right to have an opinion about your life. The truth is that the less you reveal, the more control you have. Silence protects you. Not everyone needs to know what you think. Not everyone deserves access to your inner life. When you start talking less and observing more, you begin to see the hidden game behind every interaction. Neil Strauss summed it up this way: mystery creates curiosity, and curiosity creates interest. When people can't predict what you'll do or think, when they can't easily categorize you, they become more interested. They want to solve the enigma you represent. Here's a powerful exercise to master the silence test. For the next week, consciously reduce the amount of information you share. When someone asks you a personal question, answer with fewer words than you normally would. Don't explain your decisions unless absolutely necessary. And above all, learn to feel comfortable in silences. If someone asks about your future plans, instead of revealing your entire strategy, smile slightly and say, "I have some interesting ideas in mind." If they ask why you made a certain decision, instead of exhaustively justifying yourself, simply say, "It seemed right at the time." Also, practice the art of the pause. When someone asks you a question, especially one that seems designed to make you reveal too much, take a few seconds before answering. That pause not only gives you time to formulate a more controlled response, but also creates tension that makes your answer, when it finally comes, carry more weight. And repeat this affirmation to yourself. My silence is my power. I don't need to fill every empty space. When you master the art of silence, you'll notice a change in how others perceive you. Some will feel uncomfortable because they can't easily read your intentions. Others will admire you because you project a confidence that few have. And many will try to figure you out because the unknown is always more attractive than the predictable. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to keep discovering these truths that few know about human interactions. And now, prepare yourself for the fourth level of tests, where it's really decided who has control in any relationship. The fourth type of test, and one that's rarely openly discussed, is the test of boundaries and prioritization. It's when someone tries to see how far they can go with you, how much you can tolerate, and if you'll put yourself last to please them. Strauss repeatedly observed this pattern. People will treat others exactly as they're allowed to treat them. And he was right. Every time you allow someone to cross your boundaries, every time you put yourself last to please others, you're failing a crucial test. Most people live putting others first. They do everything to please, to fit in, to be accepted. And this is precisely the mistake that makes them manipulable, because every time you sacrifice yourself for someone who wouldn't do the same for you, you're giving that person control over your life. Have you ever found yourself doing things you really didn't want to do just to keep someone happy? Have you cancelled important plans for yourself because someone else asked you to? Have you stayed silent when you should have spoken up because you feared someone's reaction? These are all signs that you're failing the boundary test. We've been taught from a young age to feel guilty for prioritizing ourselves. We're told that being selfish is wrong, that we should give and sacrifice for others. But there's a big difference between being selfish and having self-love. Selfishness is demanding without giving. Self-love is giving but without allowing yourself to be drained. And here's the key. When you start prioritizing yourself, establishing clear boundaries about what you will and won't accept, people perceive you differently. You stop being an easy option, someone who will always be available regardless of how they treat you. You become someone with standards, and people respect those who have high standards. As Neil used to say, don't teach people to value you less than your worth. Every time you allow someone to treat you disrespectfully, every time you don't establish clear consequences when they cross your boundaries, you're teaching them exactly how they can treat you in the future. Think about this. If you're always available, they'll never value you. If you always say yes, they'll assume you have no life of your own. If you don't respect yourself, how can you expect others to do so? People who successfully pass these tests have learned to set firm boundaries, not because they're cold or distant, but because they know their energy is valuable and they don't give it away to just anyone. Here's a transformative exercise to start passing the boundary test. Learn to say no without explanations. You don't have to justify why you don't want to do something. A simple "no thank you" or "that won't work for me" is enough. Long explanations are often a way of apologizing for having boundaries, and you don't need to apologize for taking care of yourself. Also, observe the patterns of reciprocity in your relationships. Do you notice that it's always you who gives, who makes an effort, who puts in all the work? Stop. Observe who is really there for you when you need them, and adjust your emotional investment accordingly. And perhaps most importantly, cut off access to those who don't value you. Not everyone deserves a place in your life. If someone only appears when they need something, if they treat you with respect only when they want something from you, it's time to remove them from your circle. Repeat every morning, "My time is valuable, my energy is valuable. I don't give them away to those who don't appreciate them." To really internalize this, do the following experiment for a week. Say no to something you really don't want to do without feeling guilty. Observe how people react when you stop being always available. Give yourself time, just for you, without external interruptions, and reflect. How many times a day do you act out of obligation rather than genuine desire? You'll see that something surprising happens. Those who truly value you will respect your boundaries. Those who only wanted you for convenience will move away. And that's exactly what you want, because you're filtering out those who don't deserve your energy. Are you enjoying this content? Make sure to leave your like and comment so it can reach more people who need to hear these truths. And now, prepare yourself for the fifth and final level, where it's really decided whether you'll be a person that others can manipulate, or if you'll become someone truly unreachable. The fifth type of test, and the deepest of all, is the test of presence and energy. It's not about what you say or do, but who you fundamentally are. It's when someone tries to determine if you're a person who lives seeking external validation, or if you have an unshakable inner strength. Strauss, after years studying human dynamics, came to a powerful conclusion. Attraction isn't built through tactics or memorized lines, but through authentic presence, which means that the ultimate test isn't about your specific words or actions, but about the energy you radiate. When a person becomes truly unreachable, their energy changes. They're no longer someone who begs, who chases, or who gets dragged along by what others want. They're someone who knows their worth and isn't afraid to lose what doesn't serve them. And this energy is felt. It's not something that's said, it's something that's perceived. Have you ever met someone who, upon entering a room, immediately changes the dynamic? Someone who doesn't need to speak loudly or draw attention, but who somehow magnetizes everyone around them? That person has passed the presence test. They don't seek validation. They don't seek approval. And precisely because of that, they receive more respect and admiration than those who desperately chase it. People respect those who aren't afraid to lose anything. It's a fundamental psychological truth. When you reach a state where you genuinely don't need anything from anyone, when your value doesn't depend on external validation, you become untouchable in the best sense of the word. And how do they test you to see if you've reached this level? In subtle ways. They observe how you react when they ignore you. They notice if your energy changes when you don't receive the attention you expected. They perceive if you're constantly looking for signs of approval, or if you can maintain your center even when no one is affirming you. Most fail this test because we live in a society addicted to external validation. We count likes, we obsess over others' opinions, and we modify our personality depending on who's watching. But truly magnetic people have overcome this need, not because they don't have an ego, but because they've learned to nourish themselves from within. Think about the difference. Someone seeking approval talks too much, tries to impress, wants to be liked at all costs. Someone who has passed the presence test simply is with a firm energy, without the need to prove anything, and the difference is immediately felt. Want to know if you're passing this test in your life? Observe yourself in the following situations. How do you feel when you enter a place where you don't know anyone? Do you desperately seek to connect, or can you maintain your center? How do you react when someone important to you takes a long time to respond to a message? Do you flood with anxiety or maintain your peace? Do you need to tell everyone about your achievements, or can you keep them to yourself, knowing your own value? To consolidate this state and not go back, there are 3 fundamental keys. Never put anyone above your peace. If someone makes you doubt your value, that person doesn't deserve a place in your life. Don't explain or justify yourself. When you make a decision, stay firm. You don't need to convince anyone that you're doing the right thing. And surround yourself with people who also have this mindset. If you surround yourself with insecure people who constantly depend on external validation, it's only a matter of time before they drag you back into that cycle. Here's a powerful exercise to maintain this state. For a week, observe who tries to get your attention and ask yourself if they really deserve it. Every time you feel the need to explain or justify yourself, stop and keep silent. Eliminate any behavior that indicates desperation to be accepted. And every night, reflect. Did I act today from inner security or from the need for validation? When you finally reach this level, the world responds differently. People admire you, but don't quite understand why. People start treating you with more respect, even without you doing anything different. And you feel a freedom you didn't have before, because you no longer need anything from anyone. That's the crucial difference. When you're someone who no longer needs approval, attention, or external validation, you automatically become someone others seek out. But to get here, you need to leave behind everything that once made you dependent on the outside world. If you've made it this far, there's something you already know. Becoming unreachable, learning to pass all these tests, isn't an act of arrogance but an act of personal power. It's understanding that no one has the right to control you, manipulate you, or make you feel less than you are. It's taking command of your own life and establishing clear boundaries that no one can cross. People who master these skills no longer play by others' rules. They don't seek approval. They don't ask permission to be who they are. And that's why the world treats them differently. Because when you don't chase, you become the magnet. When you don't beg, you become the prize. When you don't explain yourself, you become a mystery. And mystery always attracts. When you adopt this mindset, your presence changes. You stop being someone who can be ignored or taken for granted. Relationships that didn't add value to you disappear. Only those who truly value your energy stay. Opportunities come on their own because confidence is magnetic and people perceive it. And you have peace of mind because you no longer wear yourself out trying to fit in or please everyone. But this doesn't happen overnight. It's a decision you must make every day. Every time you want to react impulsively. Every time you feel the need to explain yourself. Every time you doubt your worth. It's a constant reminder. You decide whether you remain accessible or rise above it all. Your challenge from today is this. Comment below the following declaration to reaffirm your commitment to this change. I choose to be unreachable for anything that doesn't add to my life. My energy is valuable and I protect it. Let the world know that you're no longer the same person who used to need validation or attention. You're someone who respects themselves, who prioritizes themselves, and who isn't afraid to let go of what doesn't serve them. And when you do this, when you truly live it, you'll see how the world begins to treat you the way you always deserve to be treated. Because being unreachable isn't about distancing yourself from the world. It's about getting closer to your best version. If this video has opened your eyes, make sure to like it, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content. Remember, whoever controls their reactions controls their destiny. See you in the next video.